It's the Season 2 finale of the SHODcast. Your host, Sean Klein, alongside me, Matt McKenney, Mike Height, and our champion, Kevin McCarthy, the Proxy. How's it going, Kevin?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing awesome. Thanks for coming on with us tonight.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so I think it's hilarious that Becker needed a proxy for his appearance on this show. So
yeah,
it just makes it all the much better.
Had him lined up. He was committed to being on the SHODcast tonight. And then wouldn't you know it, we got Kevin McCarthy instead, which probably is for the best interest of everyone, just like it was with Becker's team being drafted by McCarthy. So
we record the SHODcast at about 7:30 Eastern every Tuesday night, and Becker was confirmed all day up until about 7:17. That's when I get the text message that says, "I can't make it, man." So we have the proxy here in place of the champion. Kevin, this is actually the second team that I think you've drafted a championship team for. Am I right? Or is this your first?
No, I've never been a proxy.
Okay, so first time proxy, first time win.
Draft. Never did an auction draft either. So
yeah, pretty good effort.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna do a Q&A session later, but I got lots to ask you about constructing that team. So
well, let's get into the show first, huh?
Let's do it.
Who's that Pokemon?
First thing up, who's that Pokemon? Any guesses on this one? 2010 49ers wide receiver, averaged 9 points a game, and he helped Fancy at CityGirl.com get the high score of the consolation bracket that year. Guesses?
Michael Crabtree.
There you go, Michael Crabtree. The funniest thing about this photo is I can't tell if his hair is real or if it's just like MS painted on there.
No, that was how his hair looked back then.
Yeah, it looks like it was kind of cut out though. Like the edges of his hair don't look totally regular. Like they look very fake. So I'm thinking they probably photoshopped it in a weird way.
I thought that was Photoshop.
It just looks silly.
He was so good in college.
He was good in the pros for a little while too.
Yeah, he had some good stints in Baltimore and
San
Francisco. Yeah, I think he actually went to the Super Bowl with San Francisco that year too. Well, yeah, SHODcast Show Bowl or the Show Bowl. It was Show Bowl 19. As we now know, Flutie Flakes knocked off the New World Order and became this year's champion. And we'll show you how it happened. Mike, break it down. 149 to 108 was the final score. What stands out? I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, we really only need to look at one player, and that's Jamar Chase. He put up almost 64 points by himself. He almost put up half of what Brandon's team did. Or he did put up half of what Brandon's team did.
Well over half.
Unbelievable performance by a rookie wide receiver. 3 touchdowns, over 230 yards. He had more receiving yards than Patrick Mahomes had passing yards in the game. So that just goes to show you just what an incredible performance it was. And I mean, the one was blown coverage. The one he just like jumped up over the guy and just like took the ball away. I mean, it was a pretty good throw by Burrow, but his play on the ball was just, I mean, he's going to be so good.
He already is so good.
It's so funny to think back to like before the season started, and he made those comments about, he was struggling to see the ball because it didn't have the stripes on the noses, and people were making fun of him for it, and he was dropping in drafts, and I mean, he went for $12 in our draft, and you just see now just how ridiculous that all was, and and just see what he's doing now. So I'm so excited to see what this offense is going to be in a year or two, just with all the weapons they have and Burrow's progression, and he's just only going to get better, and same with Higgins. And if Mexicans stay healthy, that offense is just going to be unstoppable. But I mean, the rest of the game, I mean, Allen had 2 rushing touchdowns and played terrible from then on out. Lockett had a okay game. Knox had 0 points, which usually is going to be the end of your day in the championship. But again, when you have one guy put up over 60 points by himself, it really doesn't matter. You can have a lot of zeros on your board, and it's not going to matter.
Just absolutely incredible. McCarthy, when you see the finals, this is the first time you've actually seen this final score, right?
Rob sent it to me because he told me I won, or the team I drafted won.
I mean, what's your first takeaway when you look at these two rosters? You're in a bunch of different fantasy leagues too, so you know what you're talking about.
I mean, kind of. I was severely hungover when I drafted, but in terms of this, I pretty much took Chase in almost every league that I had. I just liked him paired up with Joe Burrow because they were, teammates at college.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was pretty much specifically told Becker likes Bills, so I just drafted a lot of Bills.
Well, it worked out for you. He started 3 of them and ended up winning the 4 of them actually, if you count the Bills defense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think obviously Jamar Chase aside, if you take him out of this equation and you look at, what would have happened potentially if Chase weren't there, the next best substitute, you're probably sticking in Gabe Davis. And this is obviously a different game. New World Order probably gets the win in this one, considering, what else would have happened if you were to drop those 50 some odd points. But look at what New World Order had. You really don't have a very great roster aside from Tom Brady, and he was off to a bad start too. I mean, the Jets are winning the majority of that football game, and it took, a touchdown with, less than 20 seconds left in that game for Tampa Bay to come back and win. And Brady ended up with, over 30 points. But aside from that, you're not really looking at much production from New World Order. Tyreek Hill only with 10 points, definitely a disappointment, pretty much all the, last third of the season, really. And then, Jalen Hurts, only 12 points out of a quarterback, 13 points out of a quarterback. Got the win against Washington, but really disappointing from fantasy perspective. And the Bears, end up being his second highest scoring team, or second highest scoring fantasy player in that, blowout win over the Giants. So, really New World Order probably wasn't beating many fantasy teams this week with the roster decisions that he made and the players that he had to choose from. The only guy, really mistake that he made was not plugging in Berrios, which is a really tough call to make considering the other receivers that he had to choose from. He really probably would have to be crazy to sit one of these guys, Hill, Higgins, Brown or Waddle, for a guy like Berrios. But it wasn't to be. Flutie Flakes kind of, luck boxed into the Jamar Chase and he had a massive game, and obviously takes home the trophy as a result.
Well, if you ask McCarthy, it wasn't luck boxed. It was a plan. He was drafting Chase in all other leagues. What did you see in Chase?
I just liked him paired up with Burrow because they were both. I just like the fact that them being college teammates. I liked them in college when they were together, so I thought that would be a good thing. I didn't expect it to be what it was, because Jamar Chase is the reason I won in another league, the championship. But
Congrats!
Yeah, thanks. And this is pretty much just like pointed out to me. Is I'm like, I just like people paired up with their former college, college number one in the starting quarterback. Especially Burrow.
It was a unique situation when they drafted him. I know that, there was a big discussion about whether or not, it would be Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell. And, obviously they ended up going with the wide receiver, I think in large part because it's probably what Burrow wanted. And in hindsight, you have to like the decision, because Chase has had such a great year and Cincinnati ended up having such a good season, offensively, especially. But I think you're right. I think the quarterback wide receiver, relationship can't be understated, whether it's from a fantasy perspective or from, National Football League perspective, getting those extra, several years together while playing in college certainly has translated to, the pros now. So I congratulate you on that. One other question I have for you is for the first question I'm wondering is like, what did you think about the show experience during the draft? Like, how did you enjoy your time drafting with the remaining show members?
It was awesome. It was a great experience. I remember I had to do I think a COVID shot or something along those lines.
Yeah, you had to kick a ball through the.
No, I mean, let's
How'd that
ignore
go?
that. Let's ignore the kick the ball thing. That was embarrassing.
I can't wait to see what kind of
one
challenges
ball
we
got
have
off
for
the.
Rushford.
What's that?
I can't wait to see what kind of challenges we're going to have in Rushford next year.
Well, only one of those kicks, actually, the ball got off the ground. So that was, yeah, Rob destroyed me on that one.
Yeah,
but it was fun.
awful.
Was it the national anthem, their insanely tight pants that Simpson wore. I can't really remember. I was severely hungover, so it took me like about an hour to get into things.
Yeah. Well, I think
awesome.
you certainly earned yourself an invitation to the draft for next year. So who knows if you'll actually be drafting a team or if you'll just be standing by and kicking field goals. But either way,
proxy of a proxy.
Either way, I think you've definitely earned a seat at the table and can enjoy next year's festivities. Certainly. One other question I had for you was, what are the plans for your compensation for your excellent executive work?
That was my
works
question.
to maybe get your get a little bit of, what do they call it when the hand itches? What do they call that? Are you getting a little itchy hand here? Is you're getting helped out there financially or what?
I haven't heard anything.
I don't think you will.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean,
I got no notes for the draft. I just went in blind, and then I just kind of picked the team.
I guess that's the way to do it.
I was just like given the note. I was like,
yeah,
he liked Bills players. I'm like, all right. I just took that mental note.
Yeah, don't do any research and don't manage your team during the season is the way to win. That's how you get it done.
Yeah,
leave it alone.
Not a bad formula, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we've been saying, pretty much throughout the entire season that we thought it was one of the best, most talented rosters in the entire league. Obviously, it takes a certain amount of luck to be able to win the entire thing, when the season ends. And there's some other good teams in contention. Obviously, Jar's team being one of them. Simpson was up there towards the top. Neil had a great roster, ended up scoring most points in the league, and then, exiting in the first round as soon as he chose the Flutie Flakes. So obviously he had to go through some good teams to get the W and actually secure the Shofi. Yeah, I mean, hats off to you for putting together a good team.
Oh, thank you.
You deserve at least a few moments alone with the Shofi and the belt.
And a few $100, I think. I mean, let's be honest here.
How did that?
I think you should be getting $300 or something.
Yeah, no, I think it's at least 20% for sure.
Yeah, I think you got to get something out of it.
Yeah, just like Carl Spackler said, how about a little something for the effort?
For the effort.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, at least you'll get maybe total consciousness on your deathbed. We'll see.
Not until he's on his deathbed, though.
Yeah, which is nice.
There's a Caddyshack reference, right?
That's correct. Yes.
All right, I got it.
Kevin, any advice to show owners next year on how to draft better?
Oh my God, that was my first auction, so I don't really know. I have a little strategy.
Over apparently.
I had to Google how to do an auction draft prior to that because I never did one before. I don't know. Just the best thing to do is that I noticed was to have some money at the end to try to get some of those diamonds in the rough. I know Mick was getting really angry that I kept outbidding him at the end there because I had extra money. And
I think Jacoby Myers was one of them that you stole
from me. I think so.
There was maybe a couple of other ones too, but
Are you gonna
Kobe
flip out,
Myers,
like-
Jamar Chase was one
Yeah.
of them.
like how
I know
Rob
I
flipped out
wanted
about
Chase.
Tyson?
yeah, I want to Chase too. I mean, but I've got only myself to blame for blowing through my my money too early. So
Yeah, and then I think Saquon was a dud, right? For the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah, for the
Well,
most part.
he had
a
maybe one or two good weeks, but
Yeah.
overall,
But there was Fournette, and who was the other guy that there was another good running back that was drafted.
yeah, Fournette was the big one.
Fournette, and there's the second. I can't remember who the second. Oh, Chubb.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think you got Nick Chubb for like $24 or something like that.
Yeah, what a deal.
Yeah, I mean that, and we're gonna go over it in just a little bit when we get into the awards. But I was talking with Steve Wilson about the Steve Wilson Award, which goes to, I don't know if you know this, Kevin, but
No, I don't.
the Steve Wilson Award goes to the person who found that diamond in the rough that you mentioned earlier. And it goes back to Steve being the first one to find Odell Beckham. That's how that whole story starts.
Right. He drafted
Steve,
him, I think, just for $1.
Yeah, just $1,
Really?
and he was so brilliant about it too.
Yeah, outstanding foresight by Steve, certainly.
Yeah.
Even though he was the first round wide receiver, still got it for $1. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. I mean, there's plenty of every year we see these where you get people for just $1, and I think Brian's name came up a couple times because there were a few players on his team that were like, wow, he got them so cheap, and they really had good score outputs. So I might need to tap into your knowledge for our draft in 2022. If you don't have any reservations already.
I think the fact that I was ignorant was my best thing. Like I had nothing, I knew nothing going in, and I think that
True. Because there's somebody set with like no scar tissue with previous auctions. You just kind of you hear a guy and you're like, oh my god, that's a value. Like I need to jump on this.
And it also wasn't my team, so I didn't really have much of pressure on me. So I was like, I was just kind of I was like, all right, if this sucks, it sucks, whatever. It's like,
Yeah,
I think that helped.
that's true.
They definitely didn't suck, and yeah, you gotta start open up that phone and hit Brian up. Just send him some emojis with the cash with wings.
Yeah,
just send him a Venmo request.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
just put $300 request.
Yeah, just put your welcome as the title.
Yeah, something for the effort.
Yeah.
Kevin, want to thank you for joining us. Anything else you want to say before we have you leave the show?
Go Bills, go Colts. That's for Mick.
Thanks, buddy.
You're welcome.
Thanks, man.
Not
we all
Saber.
appreciate it. But no, screw them Sabres, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I've just recovered from COVID here, so it doesn't matter. Can't
Yeah.
really do anything anyway. You know what I'm talking about.
I sure do.
Sure do. I hope you're feeling better, and we'll see you at the draft next year.
All right. Sounds good. Have a great night, guys.
So, yeah. That was awesome.
Getting back into the show, the SHODcast all SHOD team. This is something Matt, I think this was your idea actually. Let's put together, an all SHOD team. Let's all put together our favorite rosters throughout the year and add a point value to it and see what comes up. And this is what we got. Of course, at quarterback, you got to have Josh Allen, right, Matt?
Hard to argue. I mean, he was number one quarterback in fantasy this year, and he outplayed some other really good quarterback candidates for the all shot team here. So somehow doesn't make the Pro Bowl, which I don't understand, but good enough to make the all shot team just because of his fantasy dominance here.
At running back, Jonathan Taylor, Mike.
Yeah. Again, another no-brainer here. Number one running back in fantasy. He was just incredible this year. I think he scored 18 touchdowns. Every time he ran for over 100 yards, I think until he ran for 100 yards, but they lost last weekend. But before that, they were undefeated in games he ran for 100 yards. So he's just been a monster this year, driving force behind Neil's team on his path to getting most points during the regular season. So kind of the no-brainer RB1.
First wide receiver, Cooper Kupp. Matt, next comes from the Rusty Truckers.
Yeah, it was an exciting player to have this year. Really was excited to get both he and Woods on my roster, and I felt really good about that going into the season. And I mean, Kupp was just kind of a dominant player. I mean, every week he was getting targeted, getting catches, getting touchdowns. Just he was a plug and play auto guy. You didn't have to worry about him. You just knew you were going to get a good output from him every week. And with a roster that ended up being as bad as mine, it was at least good to be able to fall back on him every week.
The second wide receiver, Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae, had another great year. The crazy thing is that he averaged 3 points less a game than Kupp did. And that just kind of shows how crazy Kupp's season was. But yeah, Devontae, I mean, tied to, in my opinion, has the most arm talent in the league. I mean, he doesn't have the rocket arm that Mahomes and Allen have, but the amount of touch that he has on some throws is just mind-boggling. And he's just so talented. I mean, he just has incredible hands. His footwork is impeccable, and when you have that combination, you're going to get the kind of output that we've seen out of Adams the last 4 years.
At tight end, Mark Andrews.
Yeah, Mark Andrews has grown into the number one target undisputably for Lamar Jackson, and even in games when Jackson wasn't playing, Andrews was pretty good. He's putting up some good fantasy numbers. So, in a league that features a lot of other good tight ends, look at Travis Kelce and Darren Waller and George Kittle. Andrews came out on top this year, so definitely well deserving of the tight end spot here for the Shod team.
In our first flex spot, Deebo Samuel from the Rafi Bombs.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember how much Simpson got him for, but I mean, absolute steal for what Deebo did this year. He was it's perfect he's in the flex spot because he really didn't have a position designation by the end of the year. I mean, he was kind of splitting time between running back and wide receiver. And he's been the driving force behind the 49ers success this year. Garoppolo has not been good. Lance has been worse. Kittle's been in and out of the lineup, and Ayuk is kind of regressed after last year. So it's really just been on his shoulders, and he's come through every time and every week. So definitely well deserving of being on the All Shod team.
Deebo was purchased for $5, and his output was nearly 300 points. So that's a heck of a value. Yeah. Second flex spot, another value, Jamar Chase from the Flutie Flakes.
We just spent a bunch of time talking about him in the championship breakdown. Obviously, there's probably a little bit of recency bias here. I don't even know if Chase would have necessarily made this team had he not had the championship production that he did there. But I mean, hey, if we're going to make an all shot team, this guy being on it makes a lot of sense. Getting the job done for the Flutie Flakes in the championship on the biggest stage. As Mike said, having more receiving yards than Patrick Mahomes had passing. It's just an incredible stat when you consider how good Mahomes is. And in a game that was so high scoring, Chase is just, blossoming into one of the best receivers in the league right now. So definitely a welcome addition to the All Shot team for 2021.
And in the second OP position, we see Justin Herbert beating out a lot of other quarterbacks that could have had that position there.
Yeah. I mean, Herbert, what did he end up? Third overall, I believe. Brady was 2. He had those those blow up weeks where I feel like Brady was more consistent. And, in my eyes, when you get those blow up weeks, you have a better chance of winning, as opposed to kind of keeping, averaging 22 points a week or getting 22 points a week, as opposed to like having 40-point weeks and then 15-point weeks. It's gone along with how the Chargers season has gone. I mean, they've been the most inconsistent team in football. They'll go out and take the Chiefs to the wire one week and then lose to the Texans. So he's an incredible talent. He's got pretty good wide receiving core. I think Williams is he might be even more inconsistent than Herbert is. And then Allen is obviously a very good receiver, but he's not going to be the burner downfield. So I feel like if they can get that kind of threat going forward, I think he might have the potential of knocking Allen out of the one spot, but I think he's well deserving of being the two.
And the final player on the all shod team, or the defense for the all shod team, will be Patriots D by the dog.
New England Patriots. Yeah. They were the number one point scoring team for fantasy this year. I wonder what this team would have been, fantasy wise, and also, in terms of the, their NFL production, or what they would have been able to do for the team if it had not been for their defense. It ended up being very, very good, dominant unit. Held a lot of good offenses to some low totals, and played really well throughout the season. So, and getting some turnovers. JC Jackson, tons of picks this year, and I was a skeptic of the Patriots before the season started. I thought that they just spent recklessly in free agency, and Judon was getting a big deal, and was he going to be worth it? And all these guys that are bringing in, is this going to be a team that's going to compete for playoff spot, or just kind of be like a team that's up against the cap, and then ended up being a bust? But I think they answered that resoundingly. They're in the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, and that's not easy to do. So hats off to the Patriots, and good call by Vince Walsh for nabbing them in the draft.
The 2021-2022 SHOD Awards. You guys ready to dive into this one?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We have the Manager of the Year. Matt, go into it.
Executive of the Year, as they call it in the NFL. I think this is a pretty good, easy pick. I think, he was most points of the season for a reason. He constructed a very well-balanced team that had a lot of players that ended up exceeding, the draft capital that he spent to acquire them. And then just ran into some bad injury luck come playoff time, which is something that, you can't plan for, and you're just kind of at the mercy of, and you really can't do anything about it once it's playoffs, because there's nobody on waivers. You can't make any trades. So he basically was just kind of stuck with what he had, and, the injuries piled up, and wasn't able to get it done for, winning the actual trophy. But certainly a great season for the Fat Jims and for Neil.
Most valuable player comes from the Rusty Truckers, and it's Cooper Kupp. Mike.
Yeah, we talked about Cooper earlier. It's going to be in 17 games, so some people may want to put an asterisk next to it, but he has a good shot of beating Calvin Johnson's record for most receiving yards in a season. So it's been a lot of fun to watch. Stafford has been very up and down this season, but Cooper's been remained very, very constant. Just catching touchdowns and putting up gaudy numbers all season long. And the crazy thing when you look at the Calvin Johnson numbers is Cooper has not had a game under 80 yards this season. And Calvin Johnson had a couple games where he was under 50, but he also had that one game where he had like a 350-yard receiving game. So the consistency, when you have that wide receiver one who's averaging 3 points a game better than anybody else in the league. I mean, that's to me, that's head and shoulders above anybody else in the league this year. So I thought it was a no-brainer to give to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and I brought this up, I think, in the last SHODcast, but I wanted to say this again. Again, this discussion could have been very different if Derrick Henry had been healthy for the entire season, because if you look at his points per game, and you look at he even was in front of Jonathan Taylor and in front of, I think he was actually even higher than Cooper Kupp, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that, but Derrick Henry, you know, if it weren't for him being injured, he would be in this discussion just the same as Kupp and Taylor and, you know, Allen. So
yeah, and the crazy thing about Henry is that he's still the 8th leading rusher in the league, and he hasn't played in like 9 weeks.
yeah, since October.
Yeah.
Most worthless pick.
Mm.
This one comes from the Rafi Bombs,
Oh,
and
Yeah.
it's Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I was definitely a big proponent of choosing this one for the Rafi Bombs. You know, I think, you know, just a player that was kind of the epitome of consistency, and a guy who was, you know, catching a lot of balls and, you know, doing so with, you know, not necessarily the best quarterback talent, you know, basically throughout his career. And this year just, you know, fell off a steep cliff. And it's too bad for Rafi Bombs, because, you know, if you got something out of this guy, you know, maybe he's our Shofi champion, who knows, but definitely a pick that I think Rafi Bombs would like to have back.
yeah.
No,
And
there were a lot
I
of
mean,
good
it's kind
choices.
of there's a confluence of reasons. I mean, one, he had really inconsistent quarterback play. I mean, they started with Dalton, and then he got hurt, and then they brought in Fields, who probably wasn't ready. And just it's been bad this year. And, you know, Mooney's kind of picked up the slack and really become their number one. I mean, it's just been, and Nagy's just a terrible coach. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe he can bounce back. I mean, I remember how good he was when he was in Jacksonville. He was that one season was just incredible.
And he had good years with the Bears too.
Yeah,
He had
no,
good
yeah,
years- good
exactly.
years with the
And
Bears.
so it's tough for Kevin. I mean, he wasn't my pick. My pick was Saquon Barkley, which is kind of crazy that $45 was spent on Saquon, and that team was still able to be put together by McCarthy for Becker, because I mean that's almost a quarter of your salary gone to a guy that was really, really not good this year. And so I don't know. I
hit on every single other player.
yes, exactly.
Now, what about Calvin Ridley? He was taken for I think $44 as well.
I just in my I don't know. The guy's dealing with something like off field. It's not an injury related thing. It's not he played pretty well, not as good as he played last year, but he still had a pretty good season going before he stepped away. I mean, he's dealing with mental health issues. Like, in my mind, he wasn't even in the running. I mean, it sucks for Rob that, you know, it's
not a bad pick. That's the bottom line. It's not a bad pick. I mean, there's no way Rob could have foreseen that. You know, it's not a situation where, you know, the guy wasn't playing good or just didn't play good, like with Allen, for instance. You know, Allen Robinson was, you know, basically healthy all season, just wasn't good. He wasn't catching any balls. He wasn't performing. Ridley was playing well when he was playing, and then, you know, unfortunately had to step away from football, which, you know, that you hate to see things like that happen, because you have to imagine, with the competitive nature of NFL players, that it must have been really pretty bad keeping him from playing. You know, but I don't even think that Ridley is even in that discussion, to be honest.
Yeah, and like you can kind of see, you know, if he didn't step away, you have a situation where, like AJ Brown, like he said that he thought about committing suicide, and, you know, I don't know. In my mind, it's not a bad pick. I mean, Ridley is a good player. He was having a decent season before he stepped away. I mean, it was just kind of sucks for Rob's fantasy team.
The Steve Wilson Award. Steve texted me earlier today. I tried to get him on the show to announce the Steve Wilson Award. However, he said that he's on a beach in Florida or something.
Good for him.
Get that tan, Steve.
He doesn't have time for the SHODcast, is what Steve told me.
That sounds
He's a very busy man.
I mean, he came on the show once this year. I consider that a big win for us.
Yeah, very, very busy man. Very difficult to get a hold of Steve Wilson, but I was able to confirm that this year he is taking Leonard Fournette from the Flutie Flakes as a Steve Wilson award. So Brian will have his picture taken with Steve next year, or if Brian's not there, his proxy will.
I think it should be both McCarthy and Becker in the picture.
Yeah.
I think it should be one on each arm.
I
in
think
my
they
opinion.
should be holding Steve like this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think we should do it.
I mean, Leonard Fournette, $1. He produced 260 points.
Yeah.
I don't know how he went for $1.
I don't know. I
guess
think
Arians
it's
was
hard
saying
because-
that Rojo was their guy
Yeah.
preseason, but you can't.
Plus, they had just drafted Vaughn, so
Yeah.
I think you do have to worry about that to some degree. But yeah, I mean, Fournette was just a stud all year.
Zoe knows pick of the week. There is no pick of the week. Zoe wins the gold. 7-3. That's the best record.
Yeah, well, Zoe knows, so
Zoe knows. Now, given that all the dogs had the same playoff record at 4-2, Zoe has the best overall record and the best shod parlay record as well. So a double gold for Zoe. Silver Ryder at 6-4 did not do so well in the shod parlay though.
No, he's a good boy, but he needs to learn about lines in the NFL. So we'll work on that in the offseason.
And Snoop placing bronze. Couldn't pick the show for the life of him, but did okay in the parlay. 6-5.
yeah, I mean that's in the positives, right? That's something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Talking points this week. We only have one. Let's talk about next season. This is the last episode of season 2. But we have big plans for 2022 and season 3 of the SHODcast. Matt,
Yeah.
what ideas do you have? You want to do something between seasons 2?
Yeah, well, all good things come to an end, and the same holds true for the SHODcast season 2. One thing I want to say is I think we've built an excellent chemistry between the three of us, and I think we've had a lot of fun doing this throughout the season. I'm glad that we were able to pick up where Lacombe and I left off with the SHODcast and keep things rolling. I think it's an awesome thing to look forward to every week, not only for us putting it on, but also for everybody tuning in and listening during their morning commutes and when they're on the toilet or whatever they're doing. So I think it's, I just want to say, first of all, that it's been awesome working with you guys and really a lot of fun doing this season. But to answer the question about, what we have going forward with the SHODcast, I think the sky's the limit here. I think there's a lot of different things that, we've talked about and we've, kind of incorporated into the SHODcast this year, the second half of this year. But I also foresee this blossoming into a lot of other fun opportunities for, creating new, exciting and I guess I want to say worthwhile content, but something that people are willing to tune into and to enjoy week in and week out. So I think there's a lot of good ideas. I don't want to say too much about it because I want some of it to stay kind of a little bit under the veil and kind of cover a little bit so we can enjoy it more when it's a surprise. But I think there's a lot of good things coming.
But yeah, and we can say we've been renewed for season 3. YouTube has renewed us.
Good.
So we will be back for season 3.
Yeah, what do we negotiate on our contract for that? What are we getting paid here for this?
It's not much.
I think the show's paying for our food next year at the draft.
That sounds good.
I like that. Make Steve pay for it.
I think we should sign that contract. Yeah.
Actually, Brian should pay for our food next year.
Brian's gonna be paying
Yeah.
for everything. That's all we have on this show. But before we leave you, we can't leave you without leaving you guessing on one last Pokemon. 2015 Jaguars tight end, averaged 8.2 points per game, and he helped Rafi Bombs win the championship versus You Down with ODB? Any guesses before we leave for the season? This is it.
This is just a ridiculous one. I mean, I'm sure this is
Lewis?
just this has got to be some absolute plug.
It's not Mercedes Lewis.
Not Mercedes Lewis.
Okay.
We'll find out on the next episode of the SHODcast, which will be season 3.
Yeah, season 3. So just to give you guys a heads up, what to look forward to here with our off-season broadcast schedule, we are planning 2 off-season SHODcast episodes. The first one will come to you probably in early May, right after the NFL draft. We got some good ideas coming for that episode. Probably likely we'll be having a guest on for that episode. And then also we're going to be having another episode a little closer to draft time, probably in late July or maybe early August. Again, we'll probably have a guest on for that episode as well. Looking forward to the show's 20th anniversary. We'll hash out some details about what that's going to look like. So lots to look forward to for the off season for the show and for the SHODcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, excited for season 3. Take it easy. We'll see you all next season.